Hey guys, I'm Natalie and I'm going to be talking about 2 Samuel 4:4 this week, specifically about Mephibosheth, which is a hard name to say. It took me a while to figure out how to say it. But basically, Mephibosheth means from the mouth of shame or dispeller of shame, which I thought was interesting. But first I'm going to read 2 Samuel 4:4. Says, Saul's son Jonathan had a son named Mephibosheth, who was crippled as a child. He was 5 years old when the report came from Jezreel that Saul and Jonathan had been killed in battle. When the child's nurse heard the news, she picked him up and fled. But as she hurried away, she dropped him and he became crippled. So, the beginning of Mephibosheth's story basically was that he became crippled at age 5 when his nurse picked him up, dropped him, and both of his legs didn't work anymore, so he became crippled. And his character in the Bible was one that had gone through just many hardships and a lot of trials, and his life was honestly kind of a disaster. He's crippled, his dad and grandpa died in battle, and later in his life he was accused of being unloyal to David, and he had to defend himself. It was his word against another man's, and he was accused of lying, and it was a big whole trial, which also brought a lot of hardship to him, but his life was actually spared later. David had his life spared, so that was one good thing that happened to him. But he definitely had his fair share of trials in his life, and I think that we definitely have our fair share of trials in our lives today as well. They might not be the same as Mephibosheth's, and they're probably not comparable. We probably weren't crippled at age 5, but the point is, we all have trials that we go through, and life can be really hard, and sometimes it feels like we're just not winning and we only have hard things happen to us. But I think the important thing to keep in mind is to remember that in the end, if we have Jesus in our hearts, our lives are going to be so much happier and we'll be filled with so much more joy than we ever would be on earth. Earthly things can never fill that void, and joy only comes from Jesus. So what really matters is, in the end, that our joy comes from Him, and that's really just what we're working towards in our life. All of the bad things that happen to us on earth, they really don't matter. They may seem really hard now, and I know it's so hard to keep that in mind, that they don't matter, but in the end, we're just gonna forget all of it because we'll just be in Jesus' presence, and it will just make up for everything that happened. So yeah.